Over the weekend, I went to the best watch show on the planet, the British Watchmakers Day. I got hands-on with hundreds of watches by some of the best and most exciting watch brands on the planet, including special editions, brand new releases, and old favourites. Today I'll take you through my standouts from the show, a couple of watch brands that I think can do a bit better, and reveal my top 5 watches that I saw at the event. Oh, and I'll also reveal the special edition watch that I bought at the show. Hello there, my name is Kieran, welcome to Top Tier Ticker. I hope you're having a good day. I didn't think it was possible, but this year's event was even better than the last. The atmosphere, the people, the watches, everything was incredible. Big shout out to everyone at the event who came and said hello to me. Because of you guys, I genuinely had one of the best days of my life, so thank you. But just like everyone else, I was there to see some watches. And that's exactly what I got. The first brand I checked out this year was Isotope, an old favourite of mine. It's always a pleasure to see the use of colours and shapes with this brand. Something they do better than almost anyone else. They had plenty of new watches at the show that I was excited to see. They had a new version out of their compressor, which I own the Generation 1 version of, but even their classic models like this Hydrium never gets old seeing. But my favourite was no doubt their new Flyway model. This thing was beautiful. Sort of a contemporary take on a pilot's watch. 36mm with a gorgeous knurled bezel and a textured scale-like dial. Mr. Jones was next on the agenda. Seeing these always puts a smile on your face. Their special edition for the show was as insane as usual, but very impressive in terms of the quality. Don't let the playful side of these watches fool you, they are awesome. I then checked out a watch brand for the first ever time. I'd heard of D-Trash online but never actually seen them in person. I was really impressed with the use of colours with their whole collection really. No doubt something for the summer months. This green and black diver was certainly an eye-catcher. I really liked the green hands on this one. But my favourite was actually something you wouldn't expect. This watch had a retro gaming-inspired dial with some funky characters on the dial. And again, an excellent use of colours. I shouldn't like this one, but I kinda do. We've checked out Edward Christopher before on the channel, but they've just released some new lug adapters that means you can wear any 20mm strap with this manta. This is currently their only model, but it's a beauty no doubt. Especially now you can wear this watch with pretty much any strap you like. Pompeek is a brand that I'd seen reviewed on other watch channels, but they'd never piqued my interest. My general thought with this brand is that they are good looking, no doubt, but they just lack a bit of refinement. Their watches felt just a bit too big for the style, which is a shame because I think the use of colour here is great. I wasn't a big fan of this Submariner style piece. It does look sharp, but just a bit too close to the bone for me personally. Although the waffle dial was gorgeous. This red dial piece made specifically for the show was absolutely gorgeous though, and I was surprised at how well it fit me. You guys already know I have a soft spot when it comes to a red dial, so that might be the reason why I like this one so much. It's always good to see Duckworth pressed X, although every time I see them, I feel bad that I don't currently have one in my collection because they're all gorgeous. They had this new skeleton piece which featured a Swiss mechanical movement, a proper vintage feel to this one. They had these for sale at just over $1,000, which is actually insane value considering this is a Swiss skeleton movement. They had a special edition of the Pressed X No. 2 for the show, which featured blue and red Roman numerals to celebrate British watchmaking. It's an unbelievably elegant watch. I then got to check out their new Roman numeral centenary, and yeah, wow. I'm going to get one of these in for review very soon. The classic centenary is still a favourite of mine. This time I was really drawn to the salmon dial with blue accents. The way the blue and pink contrasts is a treat for the eyes. And it was cool to see some original Pressed X models from the time when Neil's grandfather made watches under the Pressed X name. I'd like to see some of these models brought back to life. I then checked out the Gokota catalogue for the first time. Generally speaking, a really cool vibe going on with these watches, and I appreciate that they have a similar style across the whole lineup. But they had two beautiful watches that are apparently coming very soon. This chronograph was one of my favourites of the day, no doubt, and they also had this stunning jumping hour piece that had a very similar vibe. It was also great to finally meet Chris from Awkward Horology, who was working with Gokota. He's a fellow reviewer here on YouTube, so you should check him out. This chronograph is a bit flashy, but I kinda like it. I don't think I've ever seen a champagne dial with blue accents, but it works for sure. and these feature ST1901 movements, so they look just as good from the back as they do from the front. Admittedly, they were a bit big on my wrist, but I certainly appreciate the style here. Green and gold is a combination that I always think looks sexy. I also appreciate how almost every good coater has a vintage vibe without directly copying something, and yeah, this Pioneer Field Watch style piece was just beautiful. I need to cover these more in the future, no doubt. But it wouldn't be British Watchmakers Day without the best looking British watches. Bowcroft were of course at the show, and I know they went down a treat. Everyone that I talked to got exactly why I rave on about these watches so much. Because finding immaculate design isn't easy, but it's easy to find when you visit Bowcroft. I was of course wearing my Seeker Teal to the show, my favourite British watch, and it was cool to see some versions of the Seeker that I've not seen before. You see, they've just released a black case version of the Seeker Teal, which really changed the whole style of the watch. It's transformed from an elegant dress watch to something that's actually quite sporty and tactile. Who knew that changing the colour of a case could do this? This is limited to just 75 pieces, so get one of these quick if you like it. Their special edition for the show was this asymmetrical element, designed with British artist Penfold. The metallic colours on the dial were super dynamic and a treat to look at. If you guys can get hands-on with Bowcroft at some point, do. You'll understand why I like them so much. Then Monroe Adventure showed us what choice really looks like. They're releasing a brand new model called the Urban Adventure, sort of an integrated bracelet sports watch without the integrated bracelet. And the dial options here are incredible. My favourite was of course the red dial chronograph that just oozes style. The details throughout the watch here are staggering considering the price point, and the finish is superb. Their first model, the GMT, is still one that stands out, just because of how interesting the shape of the case is with the wired lugs. The Ocean is a classic diver, but again punches way above its weight in terms of the quality for the cash. I've been really digging white dials lately, and this Ocean White is just so sharp. It's also a good opportunity to get a bit of bronze into the collection. This one was super popular on the day. There's 3 different models now with Monroe. They've really burst onto the scene with these. Another brand that you should certainly try in person because the quality is so good. And they had this beautiful special edition for the show with British colours. Olivia Malin really impressed me at this show. Their gold meteorite piece is drop dead gorgeous and looks like it should cost 10 grand. Then they have this piece that almost looks like the surface of the moon in the same case. 2 exceptionally good looking watches, no doubt. Then they had some special editions of the Players Edition, which honestly really caught my eye. The first was this custom hand-painted splattered dial piece that is just so much fun. I told them that they need to make more of these because I'd 100% rock one of these around the summer. But their calendar piece is also beautiful. Certainly more understated than the others, but something for those who appreciate the mechanics with the movement used here. Nomadic is a brand that I'm yet to really bond with. I do appreciate that they have clean designs across almost the whole range, but nothing quite speaks to me yet. But the Nomadic guys are absolute legends, and I'm sure they'll turn me into a fan. My favourites from them are actually their military-inspired pieces. I feel that these look a tad less generic and offer a bit more personality. This green dial with a yellow seconds hand was pretty sweet, but then the almost purple dial of this Expedition was probably my favourite one. There's genuinely nothing wrong with these watches, the quality is superb. I'm just waiting for one of their designs to really grip me, you know? One of the newest watch brands at the show, Anoma. These have been red hot online lately, so I was looking forward to seeing them in person. Of course, the design here is exceptionally fun and stylish, and I must admit, I do really like it. It wears much better than I was expecting, although the dial felt a little bit flatter in person than it looks online. But massive kudos to Anoma, they have done a great job with their first release. And when they make some different dial options, they might have a new customer. One of the biggest surprises at the show came in the form of Bamford. I've seen these watches online plenty of times, but never in person. I always thought that these would be a bit too big and bulky for me, but turns out I was wrong. Their white ceramic diver was one of the best looking divers at the show. Beautiful dial design, great case shape, and the contrast between each element felt perfect. The GMT was a bit too colourless for my liking, but I do like the shape of the case and the inner bezel, and the build quality across every single model felt exceptionally high. Then they showed me a couple of military inspired watches that I did like. They had a super tactile feel to them that I think works really well with the style. The monopusher chronograph is an absolute beauty. It somehow feels brutalist but curvaceous at the same time, and the sandblasted case is gorgeous. But the forged carbon piece is no doubt the highlight of the monopusher collection. It feels incredibly tactile with a fun splash of green, but then the really fun part is actually the case of the watch. There's lume within the forged carbon here which makes the watch feel alive. Bamford, definitely a brand that shocked me at the show, and that white ceramic diver might just find itself in my watch collection at some point this year. Then another surprise at the show, Oma Legato. I did see these at last year's event, but they made more of an impact on me this year. The whole collection here is racing inspired, the vintage vibes are through the roof. They did have some exceptionally unusual watches, I must admit, but most of them are unusual in a good way. This crooked driving watch was a bit of a standout, just because it's so unique. And they did have a really slick selection of chronographs, including this cushion case piece with a beautiful brushed bezel and a lovely splash of orange. Their GMT was probably my favourite from their entire collection. It just had a unique look to it that I didn't see from anyone else. A brand that didn't convince me to buy one, but they've certainly put themselves on my radar. Then I checked out these awesome watches by Clements. This is the Monroe. I believe the brand's only model, but what a great looking piece it is. For sure, a fantastic everyday watch option with its great legibility and super clean design. Also a really interesting use of colours, including this one with an asymmetrical design. Again, the white dial stood out to me. I think I'm in my boring stage of collecting. It almost feels like a contemporary take on a field watch. And the last brand before I reveal my top 5 watches of the show and what I bought, Studio Underdog. I really caught myself considering picking up an 02 series this time. It's a model that certainly grew on me the more I've seen it. I just can't decide whether I like the full moon dial the most, or the pink lemonade with the gradient dial. I was also just appreciating the beauty of the Series 1, which I of course already have in my collection, but it never gets old seeing this one in different colours. Now, a few honourable mentions that didn't quite make the top 5. The red dial Pompeek Gentleman's Classic in red, the Bowcroft Element in collaboration with Penfold, and the Duckworth Pressed X No. 2 British Special Edition. Okay, so my 5th favourite watch of the show was the D-Trash Player 1. Yes, a bit crazy, but it's super fun. I'm not usually a fan of black cased watches, but this one was just really well put together. My 4th favourite watch of the show was the Isotope Flyway. This one simply felt super duper refined and it was unbelievably comfortable to wear. My 3rd favourite was the Bamford D300, a watch brand that I'd never really considered before the show, but they turned me into a fan with the quality and design of this one. My 2nd favourite was for sure the Monroe Urban Adventure chronograph with the red dial. I would have for sure bought one of these if they were available to buy on the day, but I'll certainly be backing the Kickstarter project when this one goes live in a few weeks. And my favourite watch of the show was of course the one that I actually bought. And no, I haven't covered it yet in today's video. Now, I'm just going to keep this one short and sweet because I'm going to do a full review on this watch for my next video. But the watch I bought and my favourite watch of the show was, of course, the Fears X Studio Underdog Gimlet. Yes, I had to queue 2 hours to buy this watch, but it was worth every single minute. Why? Well, you'll have to tune into the next video to find out, won't you? Drop me a comment below with your favourite watches that you've seen in this video. What impressed you? What did you think was ugly? What do you think of my top 5? And I'll catch you in the next one, guys. Bye for now.